Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I know, you probably forgot that you're even subscribed to this channel to begin with, but I really want you guys to know that I am very, very happy to be back now, and I really want to give a big apology for leaving all of a sudden and without giving any notice or warning. I sincerely apologize. It's not cool, and I won't be doing that anymore. I left for some personal reasons that I will disclose in further videos. But for now, let's just enjoy me being back on YouTube. So, today's story is called He Who Follows Me. He Who Follows Me is a scary story about a man and a wife who are followed by ghostly footsteps and someone known only as the Death That Walks. The story is adapted from an old-time radio show called The Hall of Fantasy. Here in my hands, I hold the diary of a dead man. He and his wife were friends of mine. Their names were Bill and Helen Manson. The words he has written down tell a tale almost too fantastic to believe. This is what was found written in the diary, and keep in mind, the entries end on the day the man was found dead. March 3rd, 1938. And I quote, I'm flipping the page right away of this diary. Like I said, March 3rd, 1938, and I quote, Today, Helen and I came across one of those delightful old southern mansions. We decided to stop and take a look around the place. Helen was wanting to take some pictures. Although there was nobody home, we felt that no one would mind us taking a look around the place. We both felt it was a shame that the owners let this place get so run down. It had probably been so beautiful in its day. After taking some shots of the house from the front and the side, I noticed a strange building at the back of the house, so we walked back there to take a look. The grounds at the back were mostly more shabby than the front. The building at the back didn't seem so run down. In fact, it had been in remarkably good condition. It looked like it had been built a lot later than the house was. I estimated it to be no more than 20 years old. It didn't have any windows and it was made of stone, gray stone. Helen noticed that the padlock on the door was broken. Our curiosity got the better of us and we decided to take a look inside. The massive heavy iron door swung open reluctantly. We stepped inside. Although there were no windows, light entered the structure through a skylight in the ceiling. The cold, dampy, musty air chilled our bones. There was a large stone block in the middle of the floor, right where the light was coming down from the skylight. That was when I realized the building was a mausoleum. In the stone case on the floor, it was a stone coffin. Although there was nothing else in there, it felt strangely crowded, as if there were things that we couldn't see. Helen took out our camera. She wanted to get the picture of the stone coffin. All of a sudden, we heard a man yelling at us. Hey, what are you two doing in here? We noticed the lock was broken and we came in to have a look, I said. You shouldn't have done that, the man warned us. We didn't mean any harm, Ellen protested. He won't like it, the man told us ominously. Who's he? I demanded. The thing that sleeps in the stone coffin, the man replied. You didn't notice the writing over the door as you came in, did you? That's a shame, 'cause you didn't know what you was getting into. I don't understand, I told him. We weren't trying to steal anything. That doesn't make no difference, the man said. He doesn't care what your reasons were. Who's he? Alan asked. They called him Mr. Thomas when he was living. The man told us they call him the Death That Walks now, that he's dead. People around here seen him at night. He's dead, but they've seen him walking. I know because I've seen him myself. Helen rolled her eyes. I think we'd better go, Bill, she said to me. You don't believe what I'm telling you, the man said. That's all right with me. I don't care what you believe. But you listen to what I'm saying now. If I was you, I'd get away from this place as fast as I could. Not just from this place, but this town, this part of the country. Why? Helen demanded. Want me to tell you a little story? The man asked. All right, maybe you'll believe me then. Old Mr. Thomas came from some place in Europe. I say old, but he wasn't really old. Just seemed that way. He bought the house and grounds here and had them cleaned up till the place looked like it was brand new. Then he started building this building here. There was something funny about Thomas, something in his eyes that made you frightened of him. His eyes, they looked like the eyes of a dead man. He didn't act like anyone I ever knew. He was always talking about death, always telling me how he could come back after death. I was a caretaker then, just like I am now. After this building was completed, I used to watch him at night. He'd come out there. It seemed like he was in some sort of trance. He'd stayed out here for hours, but when he'd come back home, his eyes would just glisten and shine, so you could hardly look at him. A week before he died, he told me that as long as I live, I was to take care of his place, 'cause if I didn't, he'd come back and kill me. Then he died, just like that, and he was put in here, this coffin. One night, about 2 months later, when the moon was full, I heard a noise. And when I came to look out, I saw the door to this place opening, and him coming out in the moonlight. I could hear his footsteps. Something queer and dragging like. Then he turned around and I could see his face in the moonlight. Pale and pasty and sick looking. Those eyes of his seemed to be like two burning coals of fire. He seemed to be looking at me. I heard him say, "They have disturbed me, and the moon has awakened me. I shall follow them." That's what he said. I heard him just as plain as you're hearing me, and then he vanished into the night. Towards morning, I heard his footsteps again. I heard the big iron door closing, and I knew he was back. The next day, I heard Ralph Cummins died the night before, screaming something about not meaning to go into the mausoleum. I knew who killed him. This has happened here again and again for the last 10 years since he's been dead. Folks around here say he'll follow you wherever you go if you come inside here. "Why haven't you been killed then?" I asked. "Because he needs me," the man said. He's not gonna kill me, but if I was you, I would get out of this part of the country just as soon as I could. A shiver ran down my spine, and Helen and I turned to leave. "We'd better get it going," I said. "I wish I'd been here when you came," the man said, refueling. As we walked out, we looked up and saw the writing above the door. It read, "If you enter here, into the realm of death, I shall follow you and bring you with me." The next page of the diary is on March 3rd, later that day. Quoted, I sit here and I write these words. It's late, and the moon has risen full in the sky. Helen is standing by the window looking out. For some reason, I'm frightened. Yet I know that a few months from now I'll laugh at the memory of my fright. However, in the morning, I do believe that we will leave this place. Helen is glad. She doesn't believe the caretaker's story, but she's just concerned, just as I am. It was a beautiful night. Helen and I looked out the window. The moon was so big and full. All of a sudden, we noticed a man standing on the street below. He was looking straight up at us and pointing at us. His face was pale, pasty looking, and his eyes? His eyes were like two bright coals of fire. March 3rd, still later. Quoted, The man down in the street, whoever he was, left about 10 minutes. He gave us quite a fright. If I had ever felt any doubts as to whether we should leave this place, they've all been dispelled now. I don't know what to believe. Helen has just gone to bed. I think I'll do the same. March 4, 1938. Written as quoted. As we were settling down to sleep last night, we heard footsteps packing back and forth. They were coming from the room above us. I called down and complained to the clerk at the reception. He told us that the room above ours was unoccupied. A short time afterwards, we left the hotel. We immediately got into our car and drove all night and all day. We are now stopping in a motel almost 1,000 miles away. It's reassuring that now that he can't possibly follow us. I'm very tired. I will go to bed and get an early start in the morning. March 5th, 1938. Last night was not very comforting either. We heard the same footsteps outside our room, and Helen let out a scream. She claimed she saw the man's face outside the window. This morning I went to pay the bill. The motel owner said that a strange, pasty-faced man had been in earlier and told him to tell me they would follow me. The page of March 11, 1938 goes as following. It's impossible to get any material together that will help me in my work. Everywhere we go, he is also there. March 16, 1938. This morning, the clerk at the front desk told us that a strange man came in and left a message for us. He said it was okay for us to go on ahead because he was going to follow us. March 22nd, 1938. He left a message with the lady at the desk telling us that he would be in touch. April 7, 1938. He left another message at the desk. The manager had the nerve to ask me if he was our friend. April 18, 1938. Another disturbing night without any sleep. More footsteps from the hall outside. April 29, 1938. When we went to check out this morning, I asked the clerk if there were any messages. He said that a strange man in a white suit came by and left a message that he's saying that he would follow us. May 15, 1938. I don't know what to do anymore. We can't stop for the night without him showing up. The only sleep we get anymore is in the car while on the road. May 30th, 1938. Helen and I argued again today. Since we've been on the run, that seems to be all we ever do. She wanted to go home. I fear that if we go home, he will stalk us there too. She felt that it was the only place left to run. I don't know what to say, so we left for home. June 23rd, 1938. We arrived home this evening. I called my friend Gary as soon as we got home. He said he'd be out within an hour to see us. June 24, 1938. Gary wasn't able to help us in any way. I really didn't expect any help. I was hoping that he would be able to offer some suggestions as to what to do. However, last night was the first night in months that we haven't been aware of his presence. Maybe Helen was right. Perhaps he won't follow us here. July 3rd, 1938. We have not seen or heard anything unusual since we first came home. I feel like a man who has been given a new lease on life. July 10, 1938. Still nothing. August 19, 1938. For the past 2 months, a feeling of peace and security has enveloped the house. Helen and I have been able to go around with no sense of danger or threat. But last night, that feeling was shattered. Gary had come over for dinner. It was almost 10 o'clock. We heard footsteps upstairs. "He's back," I gasped. I asked Gary to come upstairs with me to investigate. Helen stayed downstairs and waited anxiously for us to return. We cautiously made our way upstairs. The footsteps sounded like they were coming closer and coming from the guest room. Gary and I opened the door and peered inside. It was empty. All of a sudden, we hear a scream. It was Helen. We ran backstairs and found Helen sitting in an armchair. Her eyes were wide open and there was a look of unimaginable horror on her face. She was dead. August 23rd, 1938. We buried her today. I sit here in an empty house writing this. I know that soon he will come for me too. I write this in the hope that someone will find it, read it, and maybe understand my death. It's lonely here. Yet, suddenly I have the feeling that I'm not alone. Someone is here with me. He is here, in this room with me. I am afraid to turn to meet him. Very afraid to. Those eyes of his burning into me. Yet I must. I pray that someone reads this. Perhaps he will. The diary ends here. I read the full manuscript. I can't shake the feeling of creeping horror that runs through these pages. August 23rd was the last entry of this diary. The man was found dead in his room where he wrote this. There was a look of unimaginable horror on his face. The coroner couldn't determine the cause of death. But you and I, we know what killed him. The death that walks. If you made it so far into this video, I want to thank you. Please give this video a like, comment down below, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And I'll see you next week. Bye.